Welcome to Scorpio Soul Time. I'm Ronique, and this is my esoteric journey where I'm consistently learning progress over perfection. I'm always excited to bring you the latest astrology as well as using the tarot to measure what type of energies are not only going on here on earth, but what is going on up in the celestial heavens, because as they say, as above, so below. So I appreciate you joining me as we navigate these interesting times in our world. Today is an exciting time just in general, because I feel like we are all embarking on this journey that hasn't been, hasn't been experienced before. So I think it's really an exciting time. It is a very trying time, but it's also an exciting time because I feel like we're all being asked to step up to a new level of ourselves. So I do appreciate you joining me here today. If you haven't liked or subscribed, I would love if you would to Scorpio Soul Time. There are many videos on my channel. You can look back in the playlist. I have been doing this channel since the Aries new moon of 2019. So there are plenty of videos, and especially as we come into this next cycle of eclipses that come up in June, I invite you to look back in this last 6 months from the January 2020 videos all the way to now, because I want you to see how you have changed, not only yourself, your family, your work, the different views that you have, because I think that you're going to be very surprised to see that maybe some of the intentions and goals that you set at the beginning of this year to now have either come true, or maybe you're now realizing that's not the path that you want to take. And you're going to be asked in this June 2020, because we're going to have 3 eclipses, you're going to be asked to think through where it is you want to go. But we will get all into that on our next video when it comes up in 2 weeks. So today, though, we are going to talk about the Gemini new moon at 2 degrees and 4 minutes on May 22nd, 2020. And it occurs at 1:38 p.m. Eastern Time. And I want to show you here on our astrology wheel where we are at. We have, okay, so in Gemini, we have the sun, the moon, and we also have Mercury that moved into Gemini, and Venus is in Gemini, as well as the North Node is in Gemini. So we have a lot of energy in Gemini at this time. And Gemini is an air sign, and it is a sign of duality. So it is a sign that deals with not only our higher minds and communication, but it also deals with mental awareness. It rules small group activities, learning, and wanting to connect with society. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is now in its home sign of Gemini. So you're going to see lots of information at this time regarding people wanting to get back to communicating. And I think that makes a lot of sense, if you will, around this pandemic, as we've all been cooped up, many of us for 9-10 weeks. I think at the filming of this, we are officially at 10 weeks. Here in Jacksonville, Florida, our government has reopened up, if you will, and things are starting to open up here in Jacksonville, Florida. And I know that many parts of the country still are on lockdown, but many parts are starting to get back into communications, wanting to meet, wanting to re-establish communications that were obviously, broken, if you will, or had to be taken online or had to be done remotely. So there definitely is this energy of mental awareness, but there's also a I think there's also this energy of being fearful of communication, if you will, being fearful that you're not getting the right communication, whether it's from the government or it's from your local agencies, or it's just, there's this kind of tension, kind of underlying tension of people want information now, people want clarity, and it may come in bursts as we move through this Gemini season, because the sun did move into Gemini on May 20th. But there's going to be almost like an inconsistency, if you will, because there's still going to be a lot of information that is not as clear as we would like it to be, because Venus went retrograde last week. And so remember that there is still this inconsistency of like, maybe things aren't as clear as we would like them to be. There could be rose-colored glasses kind of theme to look back on that last video I did of the full moon in Scorpio at the beginning of May, because it talked about all the retrogrades of the planets that we're going through. Remember, we have at least 4 planets. We have Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus all retrograding right now. So this definitely is a time of wanting to get more communication, wanting to have more information, but not necessarily going to see all of that during this time, because we just have a lot of energy that is slowing down. And even though we might want more communication, it might not all get there, or it might not all be there like we would like. Today we have the Lovers card, and the Lovers card is going to be really about more duality. And this is in the tarot. Number 6 is usually in the Rider-Waite deck. It's these a man and woman that almost resemble Adam and Eve, and there's this duality of 2 people standing amongst each other, but wanting to communicate, wanting to share a relationship, wanting to share information. But then there's also, you know, this beautiful archangel, I think it's Archangel Michael, looking over them. And you can see in this deck, you can see the 2 people sitting here, and there's almost this halo of light over them, like they are coming together in a union, yet they're still their individual selves. And so when you think of the Lovers, it can be literal in terms of like a relationship, but it can also mean more of a duality between making a decision, between right and wrong, between light and the dark, between which direction do you go. And I think that it really is going to ring true for many of us as we go through this Gemini season, because there is this duality of where is it that we move through information that we are getting. You know, we're kind of like weighing in our head what we want to do. Many of us are walking a fine line, almost a balancing act of like, do I go out into society? Do I, you know, how safe is it? How much communication is enough for us? Are we getting all the information? So this Gemini season is going to be really asking all of us to think through, weigh the pros and cons of our actions, consequences of maybe partnerships that you want to take on at this time. It's really going to be a time of us figuring out what mentally do we need to feel secure as we go into this Gemini season. So today we're actually going to do a past, present, and future spread. And this deck I'm using today is called the Fountain Tarot. Let me show you the book on it. It's a really pretty deck. I think I've showed it to you before, but it's called the Fountain Tarot, and it really is very well illustrated. It almost has like more of these watercolor type vibe to it, and it has not only really beautiful illustrations, but I think it does a really nice job of depicting the tarot in a different way. So I thought it would be a good one to use during this Gemini new moon, because we really are seeking new ways to look at life. I think that we all have been cooped up for so long and having to do everything, virtually, that we're all ready to step into a new mindset, step into a new way of doing things. And remember, the new moon is when the sun and the moon are conjunct. They're sitting right next to each other in the sky. So there definitely is this strong energy over this mental awareness, wanting to connect to people, wanting to get back into somewhat of a normal daily life. I think many of us are longing for communication with friends, with family, but also there's a sense of wanting to get out there and just kind of explore. And I think that it's interesting that the North Node is in Gemini, and remember the South Node is in Sagittarius. So there's also that feeling of Sagittarius where you're wanting to explore, wanting to get back out there, wanting to kind of dip your toe in the water, if you will. But I think there's so much Gemini energy that we're definitely feeling like we're needing to take baby steps, if you will. And that new moon energy is that energy of starting things fresh, planting seeds. This is definitely going to be an interesting time because we are, like I said at the beginning of this video, we are one lunation cycle away from eclipse season that happens in June. So I'm wanting you to think through, before we enter that eclipse season, I want you to go back and look at that eclipse season that happened at the end of 2019 into 2020, and really evaluate where you're at mentally, where you're at with moving into the second half of 2020, because I think we can all agree that this is not the year that we were anticipating. So it is definitely time to reevaluate and think through where it is you want to go. So I think we did a good job here shuffling. So we're going to do past, present, and future. Let's cut the deck. And then we're going to use this deck over here to clarify our past, present, and future spread. All right, so think through what it is. I just heard shuffle again. Can you believe that? I just heard shuffle again. Okay, so let's shuffle again, and we'll cut them again. All right, so I want you to think through where it is in your daily life that you need more clarification, more communication. You're ready to plant some new seeds. Okay, so we got the Fountain, which is their own card in this deck. So that's a really interesting that we got that in the past. Then we have the 10 of Coins in reverse for the present. And then we have Death card for the future in reverse. Okay, so sometimes I'm gonna put the camera a little closer just so you can see, because these cards have a lot of detail in them. So in the past we have the Fountain card, and you can see here that this is a card that is not usually in the typical deck. This is one that is from this Fountain Tarot deck, and I'm going to read to you what it says. It says be, and you can see that there's the infinity sign up here. So it says, the fountain exists outside and beyond the cycles of birth, death, time, and form. It is the nameless, changeless source of which everything is a part. It is the waking from the dream of separateness and identity, and the recognition of oneself as not only connected to all things, but all things, divine nature. When the fountain appears in your reading, relinquish all illusion of control and remain quiet. It invites you to observe, master less, and to just be. Effortless and indistinguishable from life, you are the voice and the breath of universes. oneness, a moment of cosmic clarity, fully awake, the end of seeking, enlightened being, and surrender to that which you are, whole and perfect. And I think that that is very timely considering what we just went through in the past. Don't you think? If you look back, like I keep saying, over these last 6 months, there definitely is this feeling of like, I think it's interesting that there's this like white line going down here, because I almost feel like this was the past. We hit this pause and now we're moving into the future. That's instantly what I saw when I looked at this card. It feels like this being of just sitting still and having to like figure out where we came from, and then there was this automatic pause in the universe. It literally felt like we were all just like taken into this moment of time where nothing happened, where this white line was like, it's almost like everything happened and nothing happened, and now we're being asked to just sit and be with ourselves. And so I think that this fountain card is, it's always interesting when I pick certain decks for a reading, because certain times I feel like this energy of like, no, you need to use this deck. And I haven't used this deck for like at least 2 or 3 months, maybe longer. And today, this one is one that came out to me. And for this fountain card to come up in the past really is symbolic of where we're at. Is like, where have you taken maybe steps back into the past that you didn't need to? Are there things that you're reliving that you need to come to an end so that you can move to this future? There's this being of stillness that we just went through and that we're starting to come out of on the other side, that each of us needs to examine. And I think that this fountain card is really saying, stop, pause, and just be. So interesting card for the past, and I think very timely. I'm going to do this one upright so you can at least see what is the 10 of coins here. And the 10 of coins is also the 10 of pentacles in the Rider-Waite deck. And you can see that there is this, you can see that there's this light of pentacles sitting here amongst this home or this house. There's almost like this archway, and then beyond the pentacles you can see this sun and this light pouring down. And the 10 of pentacles usually depicts a family of generations where there is this emotional but very security. It's like this secure feel of like generational wealth, and that you're going to be able to pass down, whether it's money, whether it's a home, whether it's, you know, physical wealth to your next generation, or maybe it's been passed down to you. There's this sense of like being able to feel secure with where things are, where your family and possessions, your resources, your time. Remember, pentacles are earth energy, so it also could represent an earth sign comes into your life at this time during this new moon in Gemini. There's this sense of like feeling of security. So the earth signs are Capricorn, they are Virgo, and the other one is Taurus. So there is definitely this feeling of security, because remember, Taurus sun, we just came out of that season. So there could be feeling of having enough money, but then since it was in reverse, there also could be this sense of not feeling like we are secure, feeling like we're just one step away from feeling secure. And I feel like, especially with this pandemic, there are a lot of us that are going through hard times, you know, whether this has struck your family or hit your family hard due to the pandemic, due to maybe some of you have lost your jobs, or you know people who have lost their jobs, or you've been furloughed. There is definitely this sense of like you want to feel secure, but you don't necessarily have it at this present moment. But the good thing about the 10 of coins is, like I said, it's generational wealth. So this means that while you might not feel it right here in the present, there might be a sense of new beginnings or new ways to find generational wealth or to make generational wealth. So many of you might be starting your own business at this time. You might be trying to think of new ways to embark on making money that you didn't do in the past. There definitely is this sense of like money and wealth, but you're going to have to find it. You're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to do something to turn this card around. When it is in reverse, it is more symbolizing either a restriction or a delay. Maybe it's not in the timing that you would have liked it. So think about that during this new moon in Gemini. There might be some opportunities that come up, but you're going to have to put in the effort to look for them. They're not just going to drop in your lap. And then lastly, in the future, we have the Death card. And this Death card, I'm going to show you in the upright position, the number 13. And the Death card is one in which is usually, and if you look back on that Scorpio full moon, I think it was May 7th reading, look back in the Scorpio Soul Time playlist. I believe we did get the Death card. And the Death card is symbolizing, it's usually someone on top of a horse, a skeleton in armor on top of a horse who is riding in with the flag that has the corn husks on it, like they're bringing in the harvest. It represents something in your life needs to come to an end. A mental way of thinking needs to come to an end, and the way that you've been doing things may need to come to an end. There's like a internal death, and death is represented by Scorpio. So this is definitely saying in the future that there is possibly some information, some emotional energy that you've been carrying since that Scorpio full moon. Maybe there were some themes that came up at that Scorpio full moon. With this being in the future though, I'm almost feeling like there's a sense of things are not over. There may have been the starting of things breaking down, or mental energy that you went through during that season that is still going, you're still going through it. You know, there's still pieces that are left. With it being in the reverse though, I'm feeling like this might be a welcomed death, if that makes sense. Let me get it in the, make sure I get it in the screen. There might be a welcomed death here. And when I say a welcomed death, meaning like maybe you're purging out things that you didn't need. Maybe there was a sense of maybe dealing with your health. Maybe some of you got healthier during this pandemic. Maybe you started realizing that you needed to take better care of yourself. Maybe there is a sense of you connected with people that you hadn't forever. I know a lot of people were connecting on Zoom and FaceTime and connecting to people they hadn't heard from, seen for a while. So death oftentimes in the reverse to me symbolizes more of a enlightenment, like you got rid of parts of yourself or parts of your psyche that you didn't need. And especially with us coming into this new moon in Gemini with communications, there could be this sense of shedding information and communications that were no longer needed, like were weighing you down. And so I think this Death card is actually very much welcomed in the future, because to me it sounds like whatever themes came from that Scorpio full moon energy, you're going to be shedding it. You're going to be getting rid of it. You're going to be realizing that it's no longer warranted or needed, and possibly moving into, you know, going through this summer. I mean, this could take you all the way up into the new moon in Scorpio that probably happens either in late October, early November, you might be dealing with this death energy for the next 6 months or so, because for this being in the future position, I'm almost sensing like it's not over. Like you're gonna keep having these reoccurring themes. So we're gonna do some clarifiers of these, but I'm gonna pull the camera back. Okay, so now let's clarify these cards with just a traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck. I like to always use the traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck because it's one that I recognize the symbols quickly, and I also think that it really helps when you're clarifying to be able to see the information clearly and without you having to kind of wonder, okay, what does that mean? Especially when you use like a non-traditional like this fountain tarot, that the symbolism isn't one that maybe you recognize really quickly. All right, so let's clarify. We're going to clarify the fountain, which was in the past, the 10 of coins in reverse, which is in the present, and the death card, which was in the future. So I want you to think through during this new moon in Gemini, what do you need to bring into balance? What is it that you need more communication about? You need clarity around, because I feel like there's more of a theme of resources here with that 10 of coins, but also something needs to fade away. Something has outlived its welcome with that death card. And with the fountain being in the past with that B, I think there's also a sense of just being able to sit with where we're at and move on from it. So I want to clarify first the fountain card. So I'm going to cut the deck here. It's interesting we didn't have any cards fall out today. So to me that symbolizes a very strong, like there's no no hidden information today. Look at that. We just got the death card. So that is really it's always interesting to me with the cards, because they do not mix words, do they? So they definitely is coming out telling us that it is time for things from the past to be left in the past. All right, then let's clarify the 10 of coins in reverse. What is it? Why is this 10 of coins in reverse? What is it that we need to know with this 10 of coins in reverse in the present? 10 of coins in the present. Okay, so we have 2 of swords in the present, which usually signifies some kind of decision or mental clarity that we're not quite sure how to go. And lastly, we're going to clarify the death card. Oop. We're going to clarify the death card in the future. Interesting that we already got the death card in the past. So let's see why the death card in reverse is appearing for the future. Why is the death card in reverse? Why is the death card in reverse? And look at that. We got the 10 of cups in reverse. So that's always a welcomed card after you've had so many death cards, right? All right, so let's talk about the fountain and the death card in the past. So since we already pretty much touched on what the death card symbolizes, what I feel like this is also going back to is there is this energy of, if you didn't let the past stay in the past, this is a reminder that if you don't move on, you're going to carry it with you into the future. And so remember, we already have the death card here in the future. So there's already themes of reoccurring whether it's relationships, information, themes. This could deal with you not really wanting to move on from the past, but also remember I said with this sharp line here, how they illustrated this fountain. There's also, I'm hearing this like you have no choice. I keep hearing you have no choice. So I almost feel like this line is like, none of us had a choice with the pandemic. None of us had a choice of whether you wanted to, you know, if you were planning a trip to Bali over spring break at the end of March, there was this sudden like rift, if you will, in all of our reality and all of our lives, that there was no choice whether you wanted to or not. It didn't matter if you were wealthy or you were poor. It didn't matter if you know, already had your flight booked or whatever. Like there was no decision making that you could do. It's almost like everyone had to come to this pause. And so I feel like this death card in the past is saying it is time to let the past be the past, and you will need to move on in a new reality. You cannot keep living in that old way of living. None of us can. Like after this pandemic, we will all be moving forward in a different light. And so I think that that death card in the past definitely is a nod also, like I said, to that Scorpio full moon that we had back at the beginning of May. There is this sense of whatever it is you need to move past, you need to work through it so that you can move to the present, because many of us are holding on to the past and thinking that we can make things that we can bring the past back, but we can't. That's definitely what I'm hearing. Like there's no do-over. Like you need to do something fresh. There was this strong riff, and now it's time to move forward. In the present, with the 10 of coins in reverse and this 2 of swords, there is this feeling, I feel like, of not knowing where to go. 2 of swords is air energy, and the air energy is what we are coming into with this new moon in Gemini. So there is this sense of not being clear on where you need to focus your mental energy around your finances, around what happened, whether you lost a job, whether you're looking for a job, whether your home life is not as secure as you would like it. You are in a state of uncertainty. And I just heard a voice say I need to get one more clarifier card for that 2 of swords, because what I'm wondering with that 2 of swords is, are you going to be able to move on from that? Before we go to the present, I just want to do a card that is over that 2 of swords and the 10 of pentacles in reverse, because I think I know where it's going, but I want to make sure I'm hearing the information right. So 2 of swords. Why is the 2 of swords with the 10 of pentacles or the 10 of coins in reverse? King of cups. Okay. So, and it's in reverse too. So I'm almost feeling like, even though you don't have all the answers, there's going to be some emotional support that comes in, but it just might not be in the time that you want it to come. So you might have the King of Cups might represent a water energy, so a Pisces, Scorpio, or Cancer. There might be a father figure, a boss, someone that has male emotional energy that may come into your life to help you with your finances, might help you with your family. You might have someone in your life, a neighbor, someone who is a trusted person in your community that offers or lends emotional support for you at this time. This could be someone at your church. There definitely is like this strong sense of emotional support to help you with not knowing where you're going. And this is a welcomed energy, because the reality is we don't want to be in that Two of Swords energy, right? We don't want to feel like we're not quite sure where to go. I do feel like during this Gemini new moon season, you're going to get some emotional support that is well received and well needed. So I'm glad to see that with that Two of Swords. Okay, and then in the future, the clarifier for the Death card is this Ten of Cups in reverse. The great thing about the Ten of Cups, and I think we got this in I want to say we may have gotten this in that full moon in Scorpio reading. I know we got the Ten of Pentacles in that Scorpio reading. It's always interesting that if you go back one lunation cycle or one or two lunation cycles, we usually get repeating cards, which just solidifies the information and solidifies the messages that we're on these cycles, and that you don't just get rid of all of your, you know, your wants, your needs, all of your issues in one cycle, right? We usually carry them for weeks and weeks and months. And so you can see where there's this theme of things are going to be okay. We're going to be able to get out of this. There is this emotional happiness that is surrounding us. But obviously, since it's in reverse, it might not come as quickly as we would like. Like I said in the past, we would all like to snap our fingers and go back to what we knew as the norm, if you will. But there definitely is this sense of, even though there are things that need to end in our life, there are themes of whatever that death is from the past here. We are going back to, you might even go back all the way, I just heard, you might even go all the way back to that Scorpio season back in October, November of 2019. I feel like there is some information that might be reoccurring, not only from the past here, but since we keep getting this death card, there definitely is a theme of you're holding on to something that is not necessary. You're holding on to too much either resentment from the past. This could be people coming in. It could be, like I said, with the Ten of Cups, this could be a happy family, but maybe the happiness isn't quite there yet because you all are harboring resentment over something. There's some kind of mental information that may come out in this upcoming cycle, not only from that full moon in Scorpio, but I'm almost feeling, like I said, for this next 6 months going into this summer, I have a feeling you're going to start getting some clarity, and it might come in during the eclipse season, but there definitely is a feeling of not feeling weighed down so much. I feel like this Ten of Cups in the future is really the happy family. Things are going the way that you want them to go, but it just might take a little more time than you had anticipated. But overall, I think that this Gemini new moon season is going to be one of shedding what we no longer need from the past and moving on from what we thought we still need to carry over, and realizing that our resources and the information that we have to decipher through, we're going to be okay, but we're going to might have to lean on some folks. We might have to lean on, a family member. We might need emotional support from the community or from some higher ups, from your church, from your people who you find comfort in. This is a time of leaning on each other, especially going through this pandemic. Like, we are not out of the woods. And I think that while there is this sense of like, let's get back into it, I think we all need to ease into it in a responsible way, because I think many of us are wanting the future to just be instantly, you know, happy. But I think you can tell here from the death card and the death card here, there still is a lot that we're all dealing with, and we're going to have to purge out unwanted, you know, cycles in a reasonable manner. We're not going to be able to just get back to normal or get back to the way it is. And it's almost like maybe we don't need to get back to the way it is. I think that there is a new normal, right? I think that's what this fountain card is really saying, like that cut or that line of where we were. It's time to start a new future. It's time to begin in a new way. There are resources out there, and even though we don't know where to go, we can see there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but we're going to have to be patient with ourselves. And we're just going to have to feel our way through it. I just don't think that we're going to be able to magically snap our fingers and everything is going to be like it was. And it probably doesn't need to be like it was because, you know, everything needs to change. We have to go through these cycles, and we will all get through this, but we're just going to have to be patient. So I am so looking forward to this Gemini season because I think many of us are going to get a lot of clarity. I think that there's going to be more communication and not feeling so in the dark. I think we're just going to all need to be responsible, be patient, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Scorpio Soul Time when we get into eclipse season. Are we ready for eclipse season? Oh, I don't know if we are, but you know, we're going to have to be. So I appreciate you joining me on Scorpio Soul Time. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later. Stay safe and talk to you later. Bye.